Right, cars are out in the circuit now, as we can see. Jordan, have a look at them if we get a good close-up, AJ. They have got more wings on this car than I've ever seen.
Well, obviously they're fighting a downforce problem. The other interesting fact is that the weather is quite unpredictable, so it wouldn't be at all surprising if we had some rain during the race. So I, for one, seeing I'm not in the cockpit, don't mind that, because I think it makes it quite interesting. But yeah, the Jordans have gone the way of the Tyrrells and put those huge small side, you can just see 1, 2, 3, 4, about the fifth car back coming in now behind Eddie Irvine. You can see the two larger wings either side of the cockpit, obviously fighting for downforce.
Well, Tyrrell started that trend last year. We saw it in Melbourne this year with the Prost team.
Well, I guess if you just saw a Tyrrell go past then with them on, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of argument whether, okay, they give you more downforce, but do they spoil the air back onto the rear wing? Now, I can only say that if they gave you more downforce with less drag, Ferrari, Williams, McLaren would have them. I mean, I don't know. It's a bit of an open case on that at the moment.
Well, there's quite a few teams running them now, of course, in this weather. As you can see, there is some heavy cloud around and it is unpredictable out there. It can rain at any given time. There is talk that we will get some showers in the race. Now, that'll make life interesting.
Sauber's got them on as well, I've just noticed. But, you know, it's quite a stop-start sort of a circuit. There's very few long straights on this circuit now. Once upon a time, it was fantastic. You'd go down past the start-finish line, you'd go through this fantastic right-left flat chat and six. It was, and then you'd no sooner be through there, and there was this great big long, ever going on and on and on sweeper onto the back straight. It was just fantastic. I personally think they've ruined it a bit.
Now, this will be interesting tonight because Coulthard's always made a great start. Schumacher's not slow off the line, and Häkkänen's been very quick as well.
Yeah, no, this has just been an interesting lap, that's for sure.
All right, as they come back onto the circuit now, let's have a look. 72 laps, a race distance 306 kilometres. Let's take you over now to Murray Walker and, of course, Martin Brundle.
The cockpit sides are high, and then that means the sensor in the car is over the sensor on the start line.
So when the 5 lights go out, it will be action in Argentina. And that's it. Lovely start by David Coulthard. We go with the grid up into the first corner, and Häkkinen has got past Schumacher. Häkkinen is second behind Michael Schumacher, and the leading Williams has got past Eddie Irvine, so bad starts for both the Ferrari drivers. And it is David Coulthard, Mika Häkkinen, Michael Schumacher, and then the rest goes streaming round. Everybody has got away, all 22 drivers. We're going to be seeing a lot of Esteban Tuero, the Argentine driver in the Minardi. But at the present moment, understandably, he's well at the back. He started in 20th position, and coming towards us, it's McLaren, Schumacher, Frentzen is 4th, Irvine is 5th, Villeneuve is in 6th position. So Heinz-Harald Frentzen has made up places.
The white stuff you can see on the track is dry ice that they put in the radiator side pods to keep the cars cool when they're on the start line before they do their green flag lap. And you saw the white stuff bouncing around. It's dry ice and it will disappear, no damage done.
So a wonderful start as far as McLaren is concerned. And now Mika Häkkinen is bottling up Michael Schumacher, and look at the way that David Coulthard, who has yet to win a race this year, unlike his teammate who's won 2, is bottling up Schumacher. There is Frentzen behind. Frentzen is Eddie Irvine, 6th is Villeneuve, 7th is Jordan Lacey, and Mika Häkkinen is speeding up. He's just made a faster lap than David Coulthard, and Schumacher is looking for a way through. I remind you that the 2 lead cars are using the Bridgestone rubber, and Schumacher on the Goodyears is really pushing Mika Häkkinen for 2nd position.
Schumacher coming very close there to losing his front wing end fence. Häkkinen not giving him any ground at all. Michael having a bit of a feint up the inside into 1. I suspect that Michael has got a lower fuel load than Häkkinen because he appears to be significantly faster. This is not one of Häkkinen's favourite tracks. It's probably his worst circuit of the season, and he's been struggling through qualifying and he's got a mirror full of Michael Schumacher, who looks in a hurry, Murray.
Yeah, now I reckon that the McLarens are making one stop. Michael Schumacher, who's on a softer Goodyear compound, could well be making 2 stops, and he's gone past. Michael Schumacher gets past Mika Häkkinen. Now he's got to try and get past David Coulthard, if my guess about a 2-stop strategy is right, because he will want to build up a lead, build up a gap. And now he's starting to pull away from Mika Häkkinen. It's still Frentzen in 4th position. Eddie Irvine in 5th.
They're going to touch. Yeah, I think they touched briefly. He ran wide.
And
touch again if they're not
careful. Irvine takes the place from Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Eddie Irvine loves this track.
Tremendously bold move there from Eddie Irvine. He made it stick, and then he had to make it stick a second time. Great stuff, Eddie.
Here he is, and Eddie Irvine is pulling away from the 2 Williams, because Villeneuve is now right up with Frentzen, his teammate. There is Irvine, who is 4th. Frentzen, who is 5th. Villeneuve, who is 6th.
Villeneuve, a good slipstream down the pit straight and catapults up the inside of Frentzen to take the position, but he has to be careful. Frentzen doesn't get him on the way out of the corner. No, Villeneuve still there.
No team orders in the Williams team, Martin.
I don't think they've got time for team orders. They're not fast enough around this circuit. They've got to get after those leaders. No time to play around with each other.
And right behind them, with the wings, the towers, as they call them in the Sauber team, is Jean Alesi, who at last has got the handling of the Sauber right. He's been complaining about understeer all season. It's his first year with Sauber, but now he's got it so good that now he's starting to complain about oversteer. And he's in 7th position. His teammate Johnny Herbert is in 11th place. David Coulthard has just made the fastest lap of the race. And there is Eddie Irvine coming up to Mika Häkkinen. And Irvine is catching Häkkinen. Race order: David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Mika Häkkinen, Eddie Irvine. There is Schumacher. And Schumacher is now on a tremendously quick lap. He's fastest in the first sector and the second.
Well, the cream always goes to the top, and the best 2 drivers around this circuit are currently 1st and 2nd. The next best driver is Eddie Irvine, back there in 4th place, and I expect he'll be closing in on Mika Häkkinen very, very soon.
And Michael Schumacher has just gone 0.6 of a second faster than David Coulthard. That is very, very quick indeed. The gap is 2.1 seconds, but it is decreasing. There is Michael Schumacher. He had a crash at the beginning of last year's Argentine Grand Prix and went out of it immediately after it hit Barrichello. Now you're looking at Eddie Irvine, and the gap between Irvine, who is 4th, and Villeneuve, who is 5th, is 1.6 seconds.
Well, that's 3 consecutive Grand Prix where we've expected problem into the first corner, and the drivers have all been good as gold.
Well, we all go. This is lap 4 out of 72. David Coulthard out on his own, but Michael Schumacher is catching him, and there is the living proof. You can almost see the Ferrari gaining on the McLaren. Yes. Is this due to fuel load?
I don't know, but David Coulthard was very, very slow through the hairpin. Michael Schumacher visibly faster, and David's got his hands full there. Michael is on a charge. He's obviously easily catching him 2 or 3 tenths of a second per sector. In fact, I think David made a mistake on one of the hairpins, because Michael Schumacher took 1.2 seconds out of him in the mid part of this lap, according to our computer information, and that's why he's steering at the back of him now.
Well, David Coulthard has been the master of Mika Häkkinen all through this weekend. He's the master of him now. There's a lot of Ferrari lovers here, and the Ferrari flags are going. The red caps are being waved, the red anoraks are there, and Ferrari is on its way, but not quite enough. They are 2nd and 4th. Schumacher is 2nd, Irvine is 4th. The top Williams, the world champion of 1990s, with Frentzen. That's a replay, and that was a very daring move by Jean Alesi to move up to 6th position in the points ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Yes, Frentzen having to get out of the throttle, a lazy Coulthard still on the track and still going fast, in fact, so clearly all 4 wheels pointing in the same direction, even if a bit of bodywork is missing.
Now, you were saying yesterday you can break the suspension with your foot if you push it the wrong way. I'm looking at Schumacher's front suspension. It looks perfectly okay to me.
Well, there's a lot of load goes through those in the fast corners, and if it was going to break, it would have broken before now, but it can do other damage to wheel bearings and rose joints and that sort of thing. But I think they've both got away with that, what looked like actually quite a lot of energy as the McLaren went up in the air.
And look at the gap now between Michael Schumacher, and this is in a situation, I remind you, where the doomsters were saying no one's going to live with McLaren this year. Well, not only is Schumacher living with him, but Eddie Irvine is, because David Coulthard is down in 6th position after that spin, and Mika Häkkinen has got Eddie Irvine right in his wheel tracks.
Well, Coulthard is the fastest man on the track on that lap, and matching really Michael Schumacher's pace up front, so at least David has a chance to make a recovery, except that he's got to find his way past a lazy Villeneuve, Irvine and Häkkinen, and that won't be easy.
Lap 7, race order. Michael Schumacher leads by 6.4 seconds. Mika Häkkinen is being caught, and there is the proof by Eddie Irvine. Jacques Villeneuve is 3 seconds behind Irvine. Alesi is right behind Jacques Villeneuve in 5th position. David Coulthard is 6th and catching Villeneuve and Alesi. And in 7th and 8th places, Frentzen and Woods. Damon Hill is in 9th place. Johnny Herbert is 11th. So, Irvine 4th. Damon Hill 9th. Johnny Herbert is in 11th position.
Well, that's given David Coulthard a wake-up call, and he's on a stunning lap at the moment. He's really charging.
Yeah, he's just gone fastest of all in the first sector. Now, Coulthard has got Alesi in front of him as we watch Häkkinen and Irvine. Eddie Irvine pushing to make it a Ferrari 1-2, first and second. Michael Schumacher, meantime, is pulling away. 7.7 seconds is the lead now. And David Coulthard, who gave the race to Häkkinen in Australia, there he is behind Jean Alesi, who is following Jacques Villeneuve. So we're looking now at the battle for 4th position. The red Williams Mechachrome, the main lead blue and yellow Sauber of Jean Alesi, going like he hasn't gone before this year in the Sauber. Behind him is David Coulthard, but David Coulthard's going to have all his time cut out to get past Alesi and Villeneuve.
Alesi running wide, and Coulthard, well, having to lift off because Alesi was on a mission to get back onto line. David's going to have a problem now. He's in the dirty air of Alesi. Alesi's got a red mist on, chasing that Williams, and he's not going to be an easy man to pass.
Well, I'm just looking at the lap times now. Eddie Irvine's just done a 1:31.4. That is 1.4 seconds slower than his team master, and I use the word advisedly, Michael Schumacher. But Irvine's 1:31.4 compares with virtually the same time to within 100th of a second of Jacques Villeneuve, who is behind him. They're holding station. And as I said before, it's terribly difficult to pass on this circuit. Replay of Jean Alesi nearly chopping the nose of David Coulthard's McLaren-Mercedes as Michael Schumacher goes through and completes another lap. He's on his 9th lap out of 72. There is Häkkinen, there is Irvine. 4th is Villeneuve, 5th is Alesi, 6th is David Coulthard, 7th behind them, 4 seconds behind them is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And as far as the Tower War is concerned, Bridgestone is 2nd behind Goodyear Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. 3rd is Goodyear, 4th is Goodyear, 5th is Goodyear, and 6th is Bridgestone.
Yes, those Bridgestones look a bit too hard. The two McLarens really struggling to keep up any kind of pace. David on a charge, but you can see the car sliding around, and a sure sign when they can't slow down into the hairpin that they've not got enough mechanical grip.
Okay, Martin, you're driving the Ferrari, you're in the lead. How much of a lead do you want to build up, assuming you're on a two-stop strategy?
Well, first of all, I wish I was in that Ferrari in the lead, but as big a lead as I possibly could. You don't know what the weather's going to do, you don't know what may happen on your own pit stop, or when you get to the traffic. There's going to be a lot of lapping done this afternoon, so Michael will... he'll be smiling to himself at the moment because it's all way too easy for him, isn't it?
Well, meantime, David Coulthard is in the points, just in the points. We're with him now as they drop down the Senna S. This is about the only place on the circuit where there's any gradient. They're coming up to turn 16 now, the double right-hander, Villeneuve, Alesi, Coulthard, and they dropped about 50 miles an hour there. Accelerate away, round the left-hander. Turn 17, 135 miles an hour, build up to 180 miles an hour, and Alesi looking for his line as he follows Jacques Villeneuve, and Coulthard tight up behind them in 6th position. Frentzen, meantime, is making no gain at all in 7th place on this battle for 4th position. Frentzen is now 22 seconds behind race leader Michael Schumacher. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who has beaten Villeneuve in the 2 previous races, is 7th. Wurz is 8th. Hill is 9th. Fisichella is 10th. I've got people dropping back all the time, of course. Ricardo Rosset, the Brazilian in the Tyrrell, is unsurprisingly last. I say unsurprisingly because he was doing a lot of spinning off in the practice and really does not seem to be very happy in Formula 1. He's way down. He's 55 seconds behind the race leader. Nakano in the Minardi is 21st. Tuero, the Argentine driver, is in 20th position. Mika in the Arrows and Pedro Diniz in the Arrows are 17th and 19th. The Arrows have been performing much more reliably here. They're gradually getting the bugs out of what is an innovative and very impressive motor car. As Villeneuve, Alesi and Coulthard continue to fight for that 4th position on lap 11 out of 72. Here's the... And Eddie Irvine is... just checking. Eddie Irvine is only 1.6 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. And his last lap was marginally slower than the McLaren, so things are fairly static there. But Michael Schumacher is the first man in the race today to go round in under 1 minute 30 seconds. 1 minute 29.5. He did that on the 3rd lap. And that is about 1.5 seconds outside last year's lap record.
No, Michael's trying hard. You saw him lose the back end of the car there into the hairpin after Ascari, but good direction change. He's been flinging that Ferrari around. There's good grip here on the exit of this corner as you head down a short straight towards the CNRS. Michael with a 10.6 second lead. And he looks pretty casual through there, but he'll be jumping on the throttle pedal. He's trying hard. Yeah, he's really enjoying that, isn't he?
Now, as ever, Michael, before this race, he had 2 cars available to him. All the teams bring 3 cars, and one of them is assigned to each driver, and the spare is a preferred car for one of the drivers, and in the case of Ferrari, whoa!
That's how hard he's trying.
And now we're riding with Coulthard as he attacks.
That's Coulthard into turn 3, having a go at the inside of Alesi. Didn't make it stick. He keeps yo-yoing up to the back of Alesi and then falling as he gets in the dirt here or locks a wheel or something, falling away again. David having a terrible race.
Now, I was saying that Michael Schumacher had the 2 cars, and right up to the time the pit lane closed, he was debating about which of the 2 cars, which had different setups, he was going to use. Well, I don't know how the other one would have gone, but this one's going pretty well. Lap 12, he's faster again. Michael Schumacher, presumably as the fuel load comes down, as a bit more rubber goes on the track, as he enjoys the adrenaline of leading a race for the first time this year for a long time, is going faster and faster.
I don't know how Ralf Schumacher ended up back in 13th place after his excellent qualifying position in 5th position on the grid, so clearly he's had a coming together with somebody. Ralph way back in 13th, David Hill in 9th, Johnny Herbert 11th.
Well, at least Ralf Schumacher has not only done more than 1 lap, but is still on the same lap as his brother, race leader Michael Schumacher, who has just gone faster again. 1 minute 29.285, 1.3 seconds outside Gerhard Berger's last year's lap record in the Benetton Renault. And that is Alesi. There is David Coulthard. Now, David obviously hasn't settled for 6th position, but he's not having any effect on Jean Alesi. And that coming together with Michael Schumacher could cost him very dear indeed. At the time it happened, he was on 10 points. That's Eddie Irvine in 3rd position. And now, of course, he's on 1 World Championship point in a situation where he's already 8 World Championship points behind Mika Häkkinen after 2 races.
60 laps to go yet, though. Plenty to happen, I feel.
Yes, because we don't know about the strategies. We don't know, for that matter, whether we're going to get a bit of dampness or even a bit of rain on the track. when I came to the commentary box, it was looking quite gloomy. But time for a moment to leave Buenos Aires, but join us again soon.
Welcome back to the Argentine Formula 1 Grand Prix. Now, after 15 laps, Michael Schumacher out in front of the Ferrari. Hakkinen, Irvine, Villeneuve, Alesi, great job tonight, and Coulthard fighting back now. AJ, some very early pointers to this race.
Yeah, I mean, just watching Schumacher's excuse me, body language in that car is fantastic. I mean, he's really driving at 11 tenths, and that would suggest that he's on a two-stop strategy, and I would suggest that a lot of the Bridgestone blokes are on a one-stop strategy, which will make it very interesting indeed in the next couple of, well, in the next 10 or so laps. Coulthard's accident, well, that was interesting. That's twice in a row now at the same corner he went too wide. But I think what a lot of people do is they underestimate just how quick Schumacher can carry the speed of a car into a corner. And I guess if you're David Coulthard and you run a bit wide and you think, well, I went in there pretty quick, you just don't imagine that anybody else could go in there as quick and not do the same thing. But that's Schumacher's strength, his ability to be able to carry the speed of the car into the corner, and his mid-corner speed is just, it's awesome.
Back to Murray Walker.
Dialed that Williams in. We saw briefly there the Sauber pit watching on as Alesi closes in. David, I don't think he's going to be able to pass them. They're running very quickly. Thankfully for him, at least they're running a reasonable pace. He's not dropping too far away, but he hasn't got enough extra speed anywhere to whistle past either of those two cars. He'll have to get aggressive.
Yeah, he'll get past them, of course, if he's on a one-stop strategy and they're on two-stop strategies. They come in round about lap 24, but as you say, he's having a real fight on his hands. Villeneuve, Alesi and Coulthard, and there is Mika Hakkinen. Now he is now the fastest man on the track. He's just gone round in 1 minute 28.9, which is exactly 1 second only slower than last year's lap record.
Well, one of two things can be happening. Either the track is coming to the McLarens a little bit, in that the grip is going down, the rubber's going down, and it's shooting those harder Bridgestones well, or the McLaren is just feeling very, very good as he's getting rid of the fuel load. Obviously, weight is a crucial factor for your lap time. As you accelerate the weight, break the weight, and turn it through the corners, has a huge effect. A tank full of gas is a big percentage of the total weight of a Formula 1 car.
Now, you may wonder why I'm going on about the fact that comparing this year's lap record with last year's lap record. The cars are very different this year. They've deliberately been legislated to go slower, or at least that was the intention of the governing body. The cars are 20 centimetres narrower, and they're on grooved tyres, as you can see, as the McLaren comes towards us, of Mika Hakkinen. And those grooved tyres mean less rubber on the track. Less rubber means less grip, and therefore slower. And here is Eddie Irvine, but still the cars are only 1 second slower than last year, and they're going to go quicker still, I think, provided we don't get any rain or dampness on the track. Now, Eddie Irvine, who you are watching, who was second brilliantly last year, and really has made giant strides in the Ferrari this year, in my opinion, is 5.6 seconds behind Hakkinen.
Well, he saw the flag up on the TV screen saying 55 laps to go. I can tell you, when you go past the pits and your pit board tells you 55 laps to go, you think, wow, I'm out of breath already. But Irvine going well, but not really. I mean, Hakkinen's car's now beginning to work well, as we said, and Irvine can't really respond to this moment.
Now there's two men charging at the present moment. Alexander Wurz, who's in 8th position, and he's catching Fredson. Damon Hill, who is behind Wurz, just behind him, and he is in 9th place. Now, two others who are going well, Johnny Herbert down in 11th place, as we look through the suspension of Eddie Irvine Ferrari. Johnny Herbert, after this torrid weekend, is making pace. He's closing up on Fisichella, who is in 10th position. Ralf Schumacher has recovered. No, he hasn't. There he is, off. As I say it, there he is off the track. Well, he was in 13th position, and it looks as though he was up to his old tricks there, although he's got further here in Argentina than he did it. Hello? Here is
Schumacher lapping. He's just up to the tail enders now. Schumacher lapping the first cars. And Ralph, they should put some cutters underneath this car.
Here's the retirement. Here's the steward out of the race now. Is it American? The unfortunate Dane who has not had the best of times since he joined Formula. Oh, that's the reason. Magnussen and Schumacher. We didn't see a collision, but either Schumacher was just being a bit precipitate or there was a touch.
He locked his brakes on the way in. Very strange to lock all four like that. He must have really left it way too late as he lets his brother through easily.
Yeah, he practically came to a standstill there. I'm sure he's remembering the occasion when he took his brother out last year. And now Michael Schumacher, lap 19 out of 72, is still that comfortable 12 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen, but with Mika Häkkinen's fastest lap of the race that we've had so far, it's come down to just under 12 seconds rather than just over 12 seconds.
I wonder if Ralph has got a problem if he's going to go into the pit lane, because it's really odd to lock all four wheels like that.
He's
into a braking area, yes. So Ralph probably got some kind of mechanical problem.
Terrific scrap going on between the Minardis of Tuero and Nakano. Now we're with Schumacher in the pit lane. Ralf Schumacher in the pit lane. First stop, 9.7 seconds. Ralf Schumacher exits in the Jordan.
I would think he had some fairly nasty flat spot on those tyres, so clearly thought he was better off to make a stop. It's very early in the race, of course, and that will put his whole race strategy out of bed, but he's so far back, I don't think it'll make any difference. He's not going to score any points.
Just look at the way the Ferraris are slicing through the field. That's Eddie Irvine, and he's just gone past Takagi, who is in 15th position, and there's another retirement there. It's the arrows of, I think, Mika Salo out of the race. So we're now down to Magnussen is out, Deniz is out, Salo is out. Tom Walkinshaw's come all the way from Argentina. He's going to get in a jet and go, and then get in a helicopter to go to the British Touring Car Championship first round at Thruxton on Easter Monday to see his Volvos there. And Rickard Rydell in pole position, so Tom may have better luck there than he's had here with the arrows. But meantime, Michael Schumacher, who
locking his wheel badly there. Michael locking the right front badly into turn one. A bit of cadence braking, had the awareness to get out of the pedal, as you have to do, otherwise, look, he's locking it again. They're not going to look very good at the end of this stint, Michael. Running wide, costing himself a lot of time on this lap.
Mika Häkkinen is taking lumps out of his lead. There he is in the background.
No, that's Coulthard behind the
David. Mika Häkkinen's got the lead of Michael Schumacher down to just under 11 seconds, so he's gained 1.5 seconds.
Here we go with Michael down into one again. Now that wheel looked very, very early. That suggests to me that the Goodyear tyres are not that happy if you can lock a wheel in the very early part of the braking at high speed when you have a lot of downforce on the car. And Villeneuve looking in a bit of trouble too.
Now, if you've just joined us, we're on lap 21 out of 72. David Coulthard from pole position led the Argentine Grand Prix, with Michael Schumacher getting closer and closer until there was a collision on turn 6. Coulthard spun. Schumacher continued. It was a clean move. Anybody who's thinking nasty thoughts after what happened in Jerez can put them out of their mind, because it was a perfectly clean move and just bad luck. But Schumacher went into the lead. He's now on his 22nd lap, dominating the race, provided the car stays reliable.
Well, Michael Schumacher responding with an extremely fast lap. Obviously he thought, right, I better get on with this and find a new line with my going away tyres. Louise is down in the pits with some news.
Yeah, I'm down in the Jordan pit at the moment. I've just been having a word with the mechanic, see what the problem was with Ralf Schumacher. Apparently he radioed in and he said he wanted to come in and check the car. He came in, they checked it, they couldn't find anything on the car. They've been having a good look at the tyres, they seem fine as well. So there's a lot of shoulder shrugging going on down here.
Now you're looking at Ricardo Rosset, who is being caught by the battle for 4th position. There's Rosset, the lead car, although he's practically a lap behind Villeneuve, who's catching him. Alesi, who's behind Villeneuve. Alesi in 5th position. David Coulthard still down in 6th position, waiting for those 2 cars ahead on their 2-stop strategies to get out of his way. But meantime, they're holding him up, and Alesi goes through, Coulthard goes through, closes up a bit on the Sauber as they go down towards turn 7 at 160 miles an hour. And they take this corner at 160. There are the Sauber pit crew. Alesi is driving out of his skin. He left Benetton after a couple of seasons when he wasn't at all happy, having been with Ferrari for a long time, for whom he won his sole Grand Prix in Canada.
Well, Schumacher's tyres have not gone away. I think he just made 2 or 3 mistakes on the same lap, and it's really woken him up, and he's charging again now with a new fastest lap of a 1:28.5.
Which is just 0.6 of a second slower than last year's lap record. This is a quite phenomenal demonstration of how the technicians have overcome the rule makers who are trying to make Grand Prix racing slower. Well, to be fair to them, they have made it slower, because if last year's cars had been developed, they would have been even quicker. The speeds are just about the same now over the lap, notwithstanding the fact that, as I said earlier on, the cars are narrower, which adversely affects the aerodynamics, and they're on these groove tyres, which you can see there. And Goodyear will be very, very happy at the present moment. Michael Schumacher is one of the drivers who has helped Goodyear to develop this new, wider front tyre, which enables the cars to get round the corners quicker, to turn in better. Schumacher first, third, fourth, fifth, with the Bridgestone runners Häkkinen and Coulthard 2nd and 6th. Frentzen is 7th, Woods is 8th, Damon Hill is still 9th, Giancarlo Fisichella is in 10th place. 19 out of the 22 cars and drivers who started are still running. Mika has retired, so is his teammate Pedro Diniz. Magnussen has retired, and Schumacher locking up again.
Yes, but another fastest lap. So we're heading towards the 2-stop territory, really. They're going to make 2 stops in this race. It's going to be in the next few laps. Mika Häkkinen responding to Michael Schumacher's new charge, because the lead is up now to 13.1 seconds, and Mika having to get back on it even harder. Irvine still in 3rd, Villeneuve, Alesi, and Coulthard bottled up behind. Coulthard could go a lot faster, but he just can't get through.
And now Takagi is holding Schumacher up. Michael Schumacher will be very, very anxious to get past the Tyrrell, and he does so. Takagi moves over and lets him through. Now the gap was 13.1 seconds. Takagi will have adversely affected Schumacher's lap time, but of course when Häkkinen catches Takagi, Häkkinen who is 2nd, presumably the same scenario will be repeated. So 13.2 seconds to the nearest 10. Let's see what it is at the end of this lap. Schumacher, Häkkinen, Irvine. Ferrari, McLaren, Ferrari. Williams is 4th with Jacques Villeneuve, who is ahead of his teammate Frentzen, who is in 7th place. Alesi is still 5th, Coulthard is still 6th, and I suspect, Martin, it's going to stay. Oh, big one, and that's Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher in the Jordan. Now, is he in the way? Are they going to have to bring the safety car out?
They'll certainly be considering bringing the safety car out, unless he's off onto an old part of the racetrack. Because there's a much longer circuit here, and often you can go far enough off the normal Grand Prix line to end up on the old circuit. So couldn't get a yes, there he is into the last corner of the back straight. Yeah, he's way off the racetrack, Murray. Look, he's on the old part of the racetrack. No yellow flags even, I doubt, and certainly no pace car. Another big brake locking moment. So Ralph got some kind of strange problem in there.
Very fortunate for the rest of the runners. It hasn't interfered with the race. Ralf Schumacher is obviously perfectly okay. The old track was something like 4.5 miles long, much loved, and this one is 2.6 miles long. and the old one had to be discontinued because the crowd discipline was so bad in those days that they were literally, and I am not joking, sitting on the tarmac when the cars were going round. And there was no way they could stop them doing it, because if the drivers had refused to take part, they would have been torn apart. Never mind, there's Mika Häkkinen, second place, fastest on the track. Got the gap down from 13 seconds to 11.2. I'll decide whether you're going to cross the track, sunshine. I'm a driver, I'm entitled to cross the track. No, you're not, I'm a marshal, I'm in charge. Be interesting to see who wins. So, here's a winner, potential winner, Michael Schumacher. He's already got 27 Grand Prix victories under his belt. He joined Ferrari for a challenge. He certainly rose to it, because in the last 2 years, he's turned this team into a winning team. He's won a lot of races for Ferrari, and this is the year they said they had to win the World Championship. Year after year, as I've said before, they have said this year is for consolidation, next year is for winning. Well, this year it looks as though they are back in the groove, and that's good for Formula One, very good for Formula One, because brilliant as the McLaren performance was in Australia and in Brazil, nobody except McLaren wanted to see a repeat of 1998 when McLaren won 15 out of the 16 races. Hot news from Louise Goodman.
Yeah, I've been down to Arrows to find out what was the problem there. Gearbox for Diniz, gearbox for Salo as well. That's been their Achilles heel this season, but up until now, it's run smoothly this weekend. It hasn't missed a beat at all. In fact, they've had no problems whatsoever. Unfortunately, it's let them down when it matters most.
Martin, watching these three, Villeneuve, Alesi and Coulthard, I dare say people at home, some of them will be saying, surely they could get past, brake a bit later, accelerate a bit earlier. It's not like that, is it?
Unfortunately not. I mean, they're all on a very, very good pace, and you're in the dirt here, coming off the rear wing of the car in front. Your car doesn't handle quite as well, just when you needed to handle that a little bit better, and it's difficult to line up a pass. If you can get up close behind the car, in front, over the start-finish line, there is a chance to banzai him into the first corner. David just can't get that close. He's got two professionals in front of him, and they're not making enough mistakes.
Yeah, it's not as though Villeneuve and Alesi don't know what they're doing. This is Jacques Villeneuve's 36th lap, 36th Grand Prix, I'm sorry, and it's Alesi's 138th. And we're expecting Michael Schumacher in the pit soon, which is just about on target, because this is lap 27. The earliest lap he would have stopped is 24.
That's 3, where David Coulthard is much faster than Alesi. We've seen him have a couple of goes up the inside there, but again, never close enough to make the move. It's not really a legitimate overtaking place. Michael Schumacher on his way. He scored 444 points from his 104 starts. That's an average of 4 points per race or better. Pretty good going, and he wins 1 in 3 of them on average too, and that's why he earns some staggering amount of money with a lot of noughts on the end, Murray.
Yeah, while we're throwing a few facts at people, he's been on the podium for over 50% of his races. A quite amazing achievement. Now he's 11.3 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen, or was, and he's been given the sign to come in and change cars, during which time there is no doubt about the fact that Mika Häkkinen will take the lead.
Yes, Häkkinen is going to get track position. I would think he's one stopping, as you've already pointed out, and he'll take a bit of overtaking because his pace is very, very good considering the fuel load he's carrying. Michael is going to have to pass Häkkinen at some point to win this race, and well, we saw what happened when he tried to pass David Coulthard.
Yes, don't think that because... Oh, this is the first of the top drivers, Jean Alesi, to come into the pits, and he's on his 28th lap. Ralf Schumacher took 9.7 seconds, 8.4 seconds.
Oh, he's running over the wheel guns on the way out. No particular problem, I think, for Jean. I have seen cars out on the racetrack with 20 yards of air hose trailing behind them, but...
out with a trolley jack attached to him. James Allen, here is Michael Schumacher. He's your man.
Thank you very much, Murray. Yes, they've kept him out a little bit longer because of those problems that he had, but here he comes now. And the big question is, will Ferrari decide to put enough fuel to see him through to the finish? That's the question mark we need to the answer to. About 7.5 seconds would be a normal two-stop amount of fuel. Obviously, Ross Brawn at the front just checking the inspection of that Ferrari to make sure that there was nothing wrong with the calipers. 9.5. Is that enough fuel, Martin, do you think, to take it to the end of the race?
James, there's Hakkinen. Look for Hakkinen. He's just gone past me. He's taken the lead. And Michael Schumacher joins in second place ahead of Eddie Irvine.
I don't think they put enough fuel in unless they were carrying an enormous amount of fuel. As we watch a Lacey getting tangled up in somebody's air guns on the way out. It's, well, where did that air gun come from? I can't work out where it actually came from. Was it one of his own guns that he carried with him?
I don't think it was, but anyway, here's Michael Schumacher while we get more news from Louise Goodman.
If you were looking closely at the pictures of a Lacey when he hit that air gun, you'll see he's actually taken one of the winglets off the car. So I suspect he's going to have to come back in again, change the engine cover so he can run around with 2 winglets on.
Thanks for that, Louise, and very well spotted, because that will adversely affect the aerodynamics. Here's Damon Hill in from 9th position in the Jordan. He's got those winglets on that Louise Goodman was talking about on the Sauber, the tall ones on the pylons, which just give that little bit of extra downforce, which is helpful on a track like this.
I have a feeling it was one of Lacey's own wheel guns, but I don't think they would bother to stop to change the engine cover for winglets unless he's got bodywork hanging off, and they may well black flag him in that situation.
Riding with them, Michael Schumacher, he's made his one stop, and we're expecting Eddie Irvine in very shortly. Meantime, Mika Hakkinen leads on lap 30. There he is. Mika Hakkinen, the winner in Australia, the winner in Brazil, the World Championship leader. 3 Grand Prix on the trot he's won. Here is Eddie Irvine now. Michael Schumacher's stop was 8.4 seconds. Stop. The mechanics attack the 4 wheels and tyres. The man in the front keeps the front up. The man in the back keeps the rear up. And Eddie Irvine's time of 9.2 seconds, 0.8 of a second longer than Schumacher.
And here's Villeneuve, and David Coulthard somehow has got ahead of him, but not any longer. So Villeneuve clearly having some kind of problem. Coulthard getting a run at him, and Villeneuve coming back. And it takes 16 people to make a pit stop, Mary. There's 16 people working on the cars as they come in for a pit stop. But David, really an opportunity lost there, because I'm sure he has a lot more speed in the car. Lacey's made a pit stop. Good news for David in that respect. But now all he's done is just shunted up to the next car along, which was Jacques Villeneuve.
Lap 28 in came Jean Alesi. Lap 29 in came Eddie Irvine. And Michael Schumacher, of course, has made a stop. He's in second position behind Hakkinen, ahead of Eddie Irvine. Look at this ding-dong battle between Irvine. Who's replay here?
Yes, I think Coulthard must have had a run down the outside of the pit straight, but couldn't quite make it stick around the outside. David must think, all I've seen all afternoon are the wheels coming towards me.
Well, on lap 31, coming up to half distance, which is lap 36, as you watch Villeneuve and Coulthard battling for 4th place, Michael Schumacher is 10 seconds behind Hakkinen after his 1 pit stop. Hakkinen will be coming in, I think, round about lap 36 in 6 laps or so. And in sixth position is Heinz Harald Frentzen as we take a break.
Welcome back, and as you can see, just into the pits now is David Coulthard. So all getting very, very interesting. And AJ, what a remarkable race. I mean, we're seeing so much passing, so much drama.
Well, we've probably seen more passing in this race than we have all year. As you can see now, it's Hakkinen from Schumacher, Villeneuve, Coulthard, Irvine and Frentzen.
Interesting leaderboard. Let's go back to Murray.
You can see the 2 Saubers, because Jean Alesi and Johnny Herbert, who are 9th and 10th. So David Coulthard is down to 11th position. News from James Allen in the pit lane.
That stop may not work for David, because Williams are about to bring Villeneuve in, and of course if he pops back out in front of him, David will be just right back where he started. Interestingly enough, just a lap ago, McLaren gave Hakkinen a sign saying push, and he doesn't normally need much encouragement, but obviously Ron Dennis feels that he does today. Done a quick calculation, Murray. Michael Schumacher put 54 kilos of fuel in on that first stop, which at about 2.2 kilos a lap means he can go for 25 laps. So he is going to have to stop again in this race.
What a lot of people don't realise, of course, is this race, and all races, are not just about the car and driver. They're about the backup that they get in the pits, because the cars are sending messages, the pits are giving messages to the driver, they're planning, they're looking at telemetry all the time, they're planning strategy. Motor racing, Formula One really is a team effort.
And the clever bit is obviously when you have an incident like Schumacher and Coulthard coming together, the whole complexion of the race changes, and those guys on the pit wall have to think on their feet and adjust their ideas. There's no point having a fixed idea, as we see Frentzen locking the inside wheel into turn 3. He's under quite a lot of pressure, as ever, from Alexander Wurz, just 0.3 of a second behind him.
Young Alexander Wurz, who finished so well in 4th position in Brazil, and this is only Alexander Wurz's 6th Grand Prix in his very short career. And here he is, hanging on to Fisichella, getting ahead of Fisichella. There he is. Wurz is in 6th position, Fisichella behind him 7th. And Wurz climbing all over Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who has yet to stop. So he's going to be on a 2-stop strategy. His tyres are going to be getting pretty ragged. But Villeneuve is still out there. He's on a 2-stop strategy, we think. Although it's looking suspiciously as though he might be on a 1, because this is lap 35 and the half distance is lap 36.
Yes, they obviously had a lot of fuel in Villeneuve's car, and they were going to see which way it went, because they've taken the tyres back into the pits now. So they were thinking of a stop for Villeneuve, changed their mind and left him out.
Now, meantime, Michael Schumacher, the gap to Häkkinen with the searing laps that Mika Häkkinen is putting in is 12.7 seconds. Michael Schumacher has got to get a move on, but of course Häkkinen has still got to come in for that 1 stop of his, which is going to be any moment now. This is lap 35, the half-distance lap is 36, and he's going to come in round about that. So, Häkkinen leads, Schumacher 2nd, Villeneuve 3rd, 4th is Irvine, 5th is Frentzen, there is the Williams, behind him in 6th position is Alexander Wurz.
Yes, and the Williams mechanics now back out into the pit lane. Be interesting to see which one they pull in. We think it's going to be Villeneuve. Frentzen there under big pressure from Wurz, who has his teammate Fisichella in range just behind him.
Now they're catching Tuero to lap him again. Tuero, the 19-year-old Argentine driver, the youngest by far in the race in the Minardi Ford. And out on his own, Mika Häkkinen leading the race now, nearly 13 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. Well, Mika's really got the bit between his teeth. That coming together between Coulthard and Schumacher, which cost David the lead, was very good news in the nicest possible way for Mika Häkkinen, who's now in a potential 10-point scoring position for the 4th race in succession, including last year's last race of the year.
Tremendously mature performance there from the World Championship leader Häkkinen. Really, he was struggling a bit in the beginning of the race, kept it calm, kept it simple, and now he's putting a bit of pressure on. Very, very impressive.
Yeah, Mika Häkkinen's going quicker than Schumacher. It was just 1/100th of a second quicker, 1/100th of a second quicker on the last lap, but it means that he's easing out his lead all the time. It's going to be something like 13 seconds, I think, at the end of this lap, which will be the 36th. And as Häkkinen goes round the corner, we're leaving Buenos Aires, but as I said before, join us soon.
Welcome back. As you can see, Jacques Villeneuve from 3rd place into the pits. And AJ, a long stop, so a lot of fuel going in.
Yeah, Daz, plenty of throttle on the way out too. 12.4 seconds. They put quite a bit of fuel in. May suggest that could be his one and only stop.
And back just in front of David Coulthard. He came out of pit lane and just came out in front of David Coulthard. So after 37 laps now, Häkkinen, Schumacher, Irvine, Frentzen, Wurz and Fisichella. Back to Murray.
Position.
Which is not going to be at all easy. First of all, to pass him, he's got to catch him, and that's going to take some doing. Into the pits comes Heinz-Harald Frentzen from 4th position. Now Wurz was right behind him, so Wurz will go up into 4th place. Jacques Villeneuve, on the other hand, was 30 seconds down, so I guess that Heinz-Harald Frentzen, after that This is an incredibly long... There's a problem.
He can't get first gear, he can't select first gear. It's gone in now, now he's stalled the engine. So maybe some kind of clutch problem there for Harry Heinz.
Well, that's blown his chances of getting World Championship points. Look at the way the seconds are ticking away. We haven't got a clock running on him, nor of the organisers. But, and it's still up on the jack. Well, it's my guess that was a good 30 seconds plus.
Well, the bad news is they'll be looking at the computer. They can see every single movement that Heinz Harald made of the throttle and the clutch and the gear shift to work out whether he made the mistake or whether there was some kind of technical problem. You can't run and hide when you're a Grand Prix driver.
Was that lucky for Michael Schumacher, though, Martin? Now, look at this. This is Herbert battling a Lacey.
Yes, Herbert trying to get up the inside of a Lacey with a back marker in play as well. But, nothing working out. Johnny doing well to stay on the road.
Terribly lucky for Michael Schumacher because he just got past the pits as Heinz-Harald Frentzen was coming out and lapped him.
Yes, of course, but Frentzen would have had to have got out of the way. He'd have been blue flagged because he was being lapped.
Well, we're on lap 40. The fastest man on the track now is, you'll never guess, Alexander Wurz, who's just gone round in 1:28.1, which is 0.2 of a second slower than last year's lap record. This young man, when he's on the track, is really sensational. I say when he's on the track, and we're riding with Frentzen at the moment because he's been off quite a few times here, but we have to remember that Wurz is finding every track is a new track, or virtually every track. He only drove in 3 Grand Prix last year and he finished 3rd at Silverstone in the process, so here is a very real talent for the future. He's in 4th place ahead of Alesi, Herbert and Villeneuve, and we look now at the Minardi or Shinji Nakano down in 16th place as he makes his first pit stop.
Another Minardi without a wheel ready to go on it. That's the second time we've seen that. Amazing, they don't seem to have the wheels and tyres ready for when the cars have been coming in.
Here's Mika Häkkinen, race leader.
Wurz is on another flying lap. The Benetton boys are out in the pit lane. I don't know who they're expecting in first. I would have thought they'll bring Wurz in first. But as we see Trulli coming in the Prost, I wonder where Wurz has found that kind of speed. He must have been tucked up behind. Yes, he was tucked up behind Frentzen, of course, wasn't he, in the first half?
Absolutely. Now, only 2 men in the top 10 have not yet stopped. Mika Häkkinen has not yet stopped. And
Wurz is stopped there, and that kind of pace that he was putting on before he made the pit stop is going to put him into play just behind Coulthard, I think, and Villeneuve at the tail end of the points.
So watch Alexander Wurz going down the pit lane at the mandatory 75 miles an hour, which is the maximum. Here comes Mika Häkkinen, who has yet to stop.
I wonder if Wurz did get, because the Villeneuve and Coulthard were only just coming past the start-finish line when Wurz was a long way down the pit lane, albeit at 120 kilometres per hour. Be interesting to see if Wurz managed to get out in front of them.
Look for Schumacher. We've seen Häkkinen. And where is Michael Schumacher? The gap was 12.4 seconds. And here is the steward of Rubens Barrichello. He's in 9th place in the top 10. Ahead of Johnny Herbert, Olivier Panis, Damon Hill is languishing in 11th place. Damon has been lapped already. His teammate Ralf Schumacher has retired, as have Mika Salo, Jan Magnussen, Pedro Diniz. There are still 18 out of the 22 running, and we think that Mika Häkkinen may well be coming in on this lap, which is lap 42, well over half distance. So Häkkinen turns in. Look back, there is Johnny Herbert, and he is in 10th position battling with Olivier Panis as we rejoin Mika Häkkinen. Now he's coming up to the left-hander at turn 12. Turn in here, then there's a short straight.
Oh, he's running wide. I don't think it'll be a problem, but Häkkinen late on the brakes, running wide, and really fighting the car, look, isn't he? And see if he comes in the pit lane. Yes, he does. In the pit lane now, he'll attack that. He's only got a 12.9 second lead, so he'll come out behind Michael Schumacher. as you saw him broadsiding, James is in the pits.
Just to give you an idea, Martin, of how important this stop is to McLaren. Ron Dennis himself is holding the arrow, pointing to where Häkkinen should go. McLaren here aiming for a stationary time of around 11 seconds. He'll lose around 25 seconds here to Schumacher, so he'll have to build a lead of around 20 seconds over Häkkinen in the middle stint of this race in order to win it. We will see. Back to you.
Schumacher leads, he's gone past, he's into turn one, there he is. Now look for Mika Häkkinen emerging from the pit lane, and bad luck for him, because he does it behind Frentzen.
No, Frentzen's a lap behind Frentzen with his pit stop problem. Frentzen is out of play, Murray.
Yeah, but is he going to move over is the key question.
That's right.
He should do, of course, but now Michael Schumacher is back in the lead on lap 43, but he's still got to make another stop. So he's going to be really forcing the pace now, trying to go faster and faster and build up a gap of some 20 seconds before Mika Häkkinen, before he comes in for his second pit stop. Lap 43, Häkkinen has lost the lead to Schumacher. Eddie Irvine is third. Lacey is in fourth position ahead of Alexander Wurz. Sixth is Villeneuve, seventh is Coulthard, eighth is Fisichella. It does not look like Coulthard's day at the moment.
No, not at all. Terrible race for David. And look, Wurz's sprint that he did before his pit stop has catapulted him ahead of Villeneuve and Coulthard. Wurz up into fifth. And it just shows you a few good hot laps in amongst all the pit stop times, get through the traffic, and it can make a huge difference to your race.
Yeah, this lad's got a great future. Remember how he passed Heinz-Harald Frentzen?
Yes, into the first corner in Brazil at the last race, and as we see Canis in the pits, well, they're just having an awful time. He was up into 10th place, but that was before he came into the
now the good news from the Prost team is that it does look as though they have now got some reliability as we rejoin the battle which has been going on for so long in this race between Jacques Villeneuve and David Coulthard. This time it is for 6th position. And it looks to me as though his petrol filler cap is open.
Yes, could well be, but I think that's Häkkinen coming up to lap Frentzen. Yes, Häkkinen to lap Frentzen, who's had a pretty poor afternoon as well. In fact, a pretty poor weekend since he ran into the back of Tuero. Schumacher going through the back markers, through the Minardi. He's really got to put a charge on. He's not lapping quickly.
Who had already, of course, been lapped by the man. You're looking at Michael Schumacher. Well, whatever happens in this race, it has broken them short. Oh, here we are.
Oh, that's a close one. Having to really get on the brake pedal, unsure of whether Tuero was Tuero didn't really commit one way or the other, and Eddie having second thoughts, but carrying on through nonetheless.
Lap 45, Schumacher leads Häkkinen by around 10 seconds. It was 9.4. I expect it to be more now. It's 13.8. That's what Frentzen has cost Mika Häkkinen. Schumacher's lead has gone up to nearly 14 seconds as Frentzen emerges from the pits again.
Well, that's a stop-and-go penalty for Frentzen, I would imagine. I don't really understand. They were just holding him, it looked like, for the 10 seconds, so maybe he's had a pit lane speeding.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, OK, so
pit lane speeding.
Well, that's finished his afternoon off completely, hasn't it?
10-second penalty for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, which pushes him right down the field, out of the points. And here is Eddie Irvine going inside the Williams. Now, Irvine is really driving another great race here this year as he did last year. Third in 1998, he was second last year.
Well, you see the missing winglet there from Alesi's car from when he hit the air gun on the way out of his pit stop. It won't affect him too much. They only give a few kilos of downforce. I don't think it'll bother him too much at all. So Alesi currently in fourth position, and appears to be no other damage. The guy carrying the most damage, of course, is David Coulthard. That broken under tray will be hurting the rear grip, the rear downforce of his McLaren. So we watch Alesi merrily on his way.
Lap 46 out of 72, top 10. Michael Schumacher 14 seconds ahead of Häkkinen, who is actually being caught by Eddie Irvine, third, 23 seconds down. Alesi is fourth. Wurz is fifth in the Benetton. Jacques Villeneuve is in sixth position, the world champion, ahead of David Coulthard, seventh. Fisichella is in eighth position. There is only about 6 seconds between Villeneuve sixth and Fisichella eighth. Johnny Herbert is 9th. Damon Hill is in 10th position, just on the same lap as Michael Schumacher, but only just, because he is 1 minute and 27 seconds behind the Ferrari. And the fastest lap we've had here today is 1 minute and 28 seconds. So he's only a second off being caught and lapped by race leader Michael Schumacher, the world champion of 96 against the world champion of 94 and 95.
Tremendous as that's Burns coming through to lap the Tyrrell. Tremendous reliability from the cars. If the any cars would have dropped out, the arrows with the gearbox problems and all of the others have basically thrown it off the road. Superb reliability.
Alexander Wurz, who is in 5th position, laps Ricardo Rosset, the Brazilian in the Tyrrell, who is 18th and last. And coming up behind Rosset as Schumacher goes through and laps Damon Hill. So Damon Hill in 10th position in the Jordan is having another very unhappy race. He is yet to finish in the points, never mind win a race in 1998. Schumacher leads, we're leaving, but be back soon.
Welcome back. Have a look at this. This is Johnny Herbert, almost out of control, fighting the car with a puncher. He came together with Damon Hill. Damon Hill gone back into the pit area without the nose cone, and that was a wild ride.
Well, it looks like he's going cross-country. I mean, he's done the right thing to get off the track and get out of the way of other people, but by trying to get back to the pits like that, he's liable to do more damage down underneath his car.
Two Brits taking themselves out. Schumacher out in front now. Hakkinen and Irvine, Alesi, Wurz, great drive. Villeneuve. Can Shuey do it with 13 seconds? I don't think so. He needs more time.
Yeah, he's also got a tail light hanging loose off the back of that Ferrari. If you can have a look at it wobbling around, that's the light that they obviously have to put on if it's wet conditions, to have a very bright tail light to help the visibility of the person following them. So that won't represent any sort of major problems for him in terms of finishing the race. But no, Daz, you're right. Here we go. Another shot of Johnny Herbert with that flat tyre.
He really had a wild ride, didn't he? Fought it all the way. All right, Schumacher, can he hang on? Will Hakkinen catch him? Good race coming your way. Let's go back to Murray.
Causing Johnny to make an unscheduled pit stop. Michael Schumacher fighting the car. These drivers are going to be exhausted at the end. They've been flat out from start to finish.
Coming up behind Jarno Trulli, who is in 13th place to lap the Italian in the cross. And Mika Hakkinen will be hoping that Trulli and Barrichello, who I think is ahead of the cross, will slow Michael Schumacher down and enable him, Hakkinen, to close the gap, which is currently 18 seconds.
Yes, well, there we see again Damon running wide, having lost his nose on the back of Johnny Herbert's car. Mika Hakkinen, they'll be showing him that hurry-up board again, because lost 1.2 seconds on that lap. Schumacher is now getting close to the territory where he can stop and still arrive, rejoin the racetrack ahead of Hakkinen. So Hakkinen needs to push, a crucial part of the race for McLaren.
This is a brilliant motor race after the domination of McLaren in Australia and Brazil, which looked like going on for the whole season. Ferrari have closed the gap. Williams, sadly, at the present moment, most certainly have not, because Villeneuve is down in 6th position, 81 seconds behind Schumacher, as we go to James Allen for news from the pits.
Murray, Mika Hakkinen this time round, once again being given the board saying push. McLaren obviously agree with Martin. He's really got to get the hammer down. Meanwhile, the Mandarins at Ferrari believe they now have a big enough lead to win this race. So expect Schumacher sometime in the next 2 or 3 laps.
And we're on lap 51 now. Yes, he is into the window for stopping the second time. The earliest I would have expected him to stop on an equal division of laps would be lap 58. Depends how much fuel we put in at his stop. He could go on longer. More news from Louise Goodman. Johnny Herbert.
Johnny, how did that happen? It looked like Damon just piled into the back of you.
Well, once again, someone's hit me in exactly the same corner, and Damon's just should have enough experience. You know you don't do it from that far back, because, you know, he's ruined my race and he probably ruined his a bit.
Actually, think you wish you stayed at home this weekend?
Oh, I think I should have stayed the whole of South America at home. It's been a total disaster so far. Well, so far. The only thing that can go wrong now is the plane crash on the way home.
I hope that doesn't happen, Johnny. Bad luck.
John Alesi in the pits from 4th position ahead of Alexander Wurz. He's almost certainly going to lose that 4th place because Wurz was only 8 seconds behind him. Michael Schumacher leads. This is lap 51.
I think I'm going to change my plane ticket, Murray. Anyway, Johnny, I've never heard Johnny talking like that. He is really down, but chin up, Johnny, because it can all turn around at the next race, Imola, where he'll be, I'm sure, on the pace.
Yeah, Johnny recovered from the most appalling Formula 3000 crash at Brands Hatch years ago, 1988, I think, where he damaged both his legs terribly badly and has lived very much to fight another day, to win the British Grand Prix, to win the Italian Grand Prix for Benetton.
This is looking like a good opportunity to bring Michael Schumacher in. They'll be a bit annoyed about this. He's 19 seconds in front, but he's catching this pack up that are fighting for 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. And it'll be critical that he doesn't lose any time in traffic. Maybe he's got one more lap before they must bring him in. The Ferrari guys, and they look like they're just moving around in the pits there. I think somebody will be calling them saying, come on guys, we're going to have to bring him in probably slightly earlier because we cannot afford to lose 2 or 3 seconds in that pack.
Yeah, you can see the gap between him and I think it's Alexander Wurz in front of him. It's quite a big gap at the present moment, but at the speed that Michael Schumacher's going, that gap will soon narrow to nothing. His previous lap was 28.7 and Wurz's was 29.8. So Michael Schumacher's lapping 2 seconds faster than Alexander Wurz. And it looks to me as though he maybe, we'll soon know. No, he's going through.
Yeah,
he's going through for another lap.
He'll stop. I think he'll stop at the end of this lap. They'll probably watch the first half of the lap, watch the computer section times and calculate if he has to come in this one or maybe he can leave it one more. This could just wreck Michael's day, actually, because it could just force him into an early pit stop that he didn't really want to take and leave him in a position where he has to muscle his way past Mika Häkkinen. Let's hope so.
Well, he's coming up to David Coulthard, who is in 7th position. Michael Schumacher leads, and it may well be that there could be David Coulthard is following Jacques Villeneuve and has got Alexander Wurz behind him. You can see how that gap is closing. Wurz is 4th, behind him is Alesi, behind him, and there is Michael Schumacher. And there are the Ferrari mechanics. Now, it's definitely this lap for Michael Schumacher. They've cut it desperately fine, but I think it's absolutely perfect. The tyre covers are still on. He's right up behind Alexander Wurz.
They'll call it. They'll have to call him in. Surely it's the right decision. Bring him in this time because you'll see him peeling off shortly, I think, and giving it plenty through the pit lane. Coulthard goes past the pit lane. Here's Schumacher. I would think he'll be sideways when he gets to there. He gets it. Go for it, Michael. That's it. Get the power on. Critical pit stop, and it's all. Oh, there he goes. Lovely one. And this is a very, very important stop for the Italian team. They need to do this in something under 8 seconds if they can. The wheels are on. The fuel is going to be the last thing. Yes, go. He had it in first gear, 8.1. Not bad.
Häkkinen's not gone past yet. Häkkinen is not there. No. Michael Schumacher's going to rejoin in the lead.
Häkkinen stuck behind the Tyrrells. Critical there. Häkkinen had a terrible lap on that lap just when he needed to have a flyer. And Michael's rejoined in front. Well.
So, Michael Schumacher has made his second and last stop. This is lap 54. There are 72 laps in this race, and Mika Häkkinen is behind the Tyrrell of Takagi. So, Mika Häkkinen has certainly got it all to do. There is Takagi. In front of him is Schumacher. Behind him is Mika Häkkinen. And it's going to be a tremendous battle in these closing laps. But just as you said that Schumacher had got to get past Häkkinen, he's done it. Now Häkkinen's got to get past Schumacher.
Well, I don't think that'll happen in a month of Sundays. Remember, Michael on fresh tyres, Häkkinen on a one-stop strategy. There's David Coulthard going across the grass. Well, he'll be pleased to see the checker flag at the end of this race. They've had it coming together.
Villeneuve out of the race, is he? Has he stalled his engine? Has he damaged the car? He was in 7th position. And yes,
see the heat haze behind the car.
Jacques Villeneuve retires. That's the second car that Coulthard has collided with, or he's had a collision with, would be a fairer way of putting it. Villeneuve was 5th in Australia. No points in Brazil.
Here we go. In fact, David had gone down the outside of him somehow. They both pirouette. It looks as if David had a run down the inside. Jack said, no, you don't. And the pair of them got together. That was almost inevitable, really, because they've been running in tandem all day, slowing each other down. It's done nothing for David's points position, because Fisichella's obviously slipped through. David's still back in 7th.
And these are the two mates who shaved their heads in sympathy after the Japanese Grand Prix the year before last. A slight rift in the friendship there, no doubt. But lap 55, Michael Schumacher leads Mika Häkkinen. Ferrari leads McLaren by just under 3 seconds as Mika Häkkinen goes past and laps Jarno Trulli. And here is David Coulthard spinning and up hitting Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, I think you have to apportion that 70-30 to Villeneuve from what I could see. It looked as if David had the car in front. Obviously, Villeneuve had the inside line and drifted wide into David. David had to make a move like that of some kind because he was going nowhere.
Well, sadly, it's got him absolutely nowhere. We're on lap 55 now, and there is Häkkinen. But, of course, whilst Häkkinen obviously wants 6 World Championship points, further to extend his lead over David Coulthard, who's second in the championship at the moment and not in the points of this race, and doesn't look as though he will be after that spin.
Well, that's the other point. Häkkinen has to defend his World Championship lead, and he's not going to be making any unnecessary manoeuvres to go past Michael Schumacher. It's a shame for us, because I was looking forward to those last few laps.
Well, here is the man, Michael Schumacher, freely acknowledged to be the greatest racing driver of the day. The man who's already got 27 Formula 1 wins behind him, with Benetton and Ferrari, and that is Eddie Irvine coming in for a stop, his second stop from 3rd position. He was 28 seconds ahead of Alexander Wurz, so he should join comfortably back in 3rd position, albeit with a decreased gap between himself and the Benetton play life. That's the first time you've heard that word from me. It's the Mecha Chrome engine, and you just saw Wurz in the background, so Eddie Irvine has indeed retained his 3rd position. It's Ferrari leading, McLaren 2nd, Ferrari 3rd, Benetton 4th, Jean Alesi Sauber is 5th, Fisichella's Benetton, the 2nd, is in the top 6, David Coulthard is down to 7th, Olivier Panis is 8th, Damon Hill is 9th, Heinz-Harald Frentzen out of the running has been lapped in 10th place, 17 out of the 22 starters still leading, still racing, lap 57.
Fastest man on the racetrack is David Coulthard. That just shows you how much time he's been losing, tucked up behind the Williams. But, he's got an 8-second gap to Fisichella, and then a further 3 seconds to the back of Alesi. Coulthard needs some points. That's Alesi thrusting past the back marker, and a very strong drive from him still.
Martin,
this is Häkkinen, and this is Schumacher.
Martin, there are an awful lot of people that said that David Coulthard should not have done the decent thing and moved over and let Mika Häkkinen through in Australia. And it looks as though that may turn out to be to his disadvantage.
It was a terribly difficult weekend for them, and obviously it all worked out very badly. It was handled badly, and I think it's taken badly. But I guess that's history now. They've got to focus on the championship, and they've got to focus on this man, because he's won 2 of them already. He knows how to win a world championship, and he looks like he's on a charge, doesn't he? Looks like the Ferrari team are very much resurgent. They're working hard with Goodyear to make their car much faster. I think Schumacher is particularly special around this racetrack. I think he'll have to work even harder for Imola, but remember, he'll be in front of his home fans there, the beloved Ferrari fans, and well, they're going to have to completely refocus their year, because it's not going to be the walk in the park that it first appeared.
Well, the great news for Ferrari on lap 57 is if they stay where they are now, 1st and 3rd, Schumacher and Irvine, they're going to get 14 World Championship points, which will leapfrog them over Williams in the Constructors' Championship very comfortably indeed. Villeneuve isn't going to score any points in this race, and nor is Heinz Harald Frentzen, who's currently running in 10th position. Lap 58, in fact. Schumacher settles down 6 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen, and he's lapping faster than the McLaren, as I think, and I could well be wrong, but it's my educated guess that, as you said, Martin, Mika Häkkinen has settled for second place, 6 points to go with it. He's not going to try any heroics, but this has been a complete turnabout in Formula One. As I said earlier on, McLaren was so dominant that it looked as though nobody would catch them all season. But then Rory Byrne of Ferrari, Ross Brawn of Ferrari, Jean Todt of Ferrari, and all the rest of the strengthened Ferrari team have buckled down and have got the job done. It's our job at the moment to leave you, but come back to watch the rest of the Argentine Grand Prix.
Welcome back as we go to the closing stages. This is Takagi just a few seconds ago. Whoa, off into the kitty litter. And I'd say he'd be staying there for the rest of that race. Back live now, Michael Schumacher. Well, we said, or I said, I didn't think it was enough time in front for Ferrari, but what about the gamble? It paid off.
Yeah, well, they just timed it absolutely to perfection. They called him in just as he was catching that fight for 4th, 5th and 6th. And they've just done it right. I mean, they really are, with Michael's help, I must admit, in this area, experts in their planning and their strategy for growth. Oh, look at Wirtz having a go with Irvine.
And a touch. Now, Wirtz, we've got a great interview coming up in our next Grand Prix, so make sure that you got that, because it's a very, very good interview. He's a very impressive young man. 59 laps gone now at Schumacher, Häkkinen 1 and 2. Irvine, Wirtz, we just saw then have that little come together. Lacey, Fischer-Keller, back to Murray.
Advantage there, because the gap has increased and Alexander Wurz has got all that hard work to do again. Meantime, we're on lap 61 out of 72 in Argentina, with the prospect of seeing Ferrari back at the top again. Michael Schumacher has calmly extended his lead over Mika Häkkinen from 3 seconds to 9 seconds. Eddie Irvine and Wurz are battling.
Here we go again, and Eddie's braked quite late, but he's still really in the corner, and Wurz has just sort of half-heartedly put his car in there, giving Irvine every opportunity to run into him. You've got to really go for it or leave it alone, but that is not really, as Johnny Herbert said earlier in the race, that is not a genuine overtaking place unless you're alongside. And even when we saw Coulthard and Villeneuve alongside each other, they still ended up crashing, and every driver knows that. Wurz obviously has just learned that for himself on his first visit to this circuit.
So would you be marching down the pit lane afterwards and saying, Alexander, there's 1 or 2 things about Formula One you've still got to learn?
No, I think he'd work that one out for himself. They're all big boys.
So we're on lap 62 now, 72 lap race. Schumacher is extending his Ferrari 3rd. You're looking at it, Eddie Irvine, Benetton 4th, and we have the news from outside our comfortable commentary box that there is rain in the air. This could really change things, particularly this battle for 3rd position. 5th behind them is Jean Alesi in the Sauber. Now, we've had 1 Sauber point this year. Johnny Herbert finished 6th in Australia before he started on his awful tour of South America, with a terrible time in Brazil, a terrible time in Argentina. Alesi is in 5th position on a potential 2 points for Sauber. 6th is Fischer-Keller. So both the Ferraris are in the top 6, both the Benettons are in the top 6, 1 of the McLarens and 1 of the Benettons. David Coulthard is catching Fischer-Keller, but not fast enough. He's in 7th place. Olivier Panis has been lapped, and he is 9th. Damon Hill is 10th and has been lapped. Another sad race for the ex-world champion, as Michael Schumacher, and it's starting to drizzle. Michael Schumacher comes up to lap Barrichello, who is 11th for the 2nd time. Well, Michael Schumacher is a master in the wet. Barrichello lets him through.
But these new tyres, they're running a much harder rubber on these groove tyres, and they do not work very well on a damp track. All of the drivers have expressed the problems with a grip when we used to come out even on a dampish track, and the slicks would... There we go again, is Wurz was, well, barely a quarter of the way along Eddie Irvine there alongside, all down to Wirtz that one, but there you saw Michael Schumacher sliding around already. The rubber is so hard, it just does not like the damp track. The problem when you're driving is, it may just be light drizzle, but when you're doing 180 miles an hour, it's streaming off your visor, and you think it's raining much harder than it really is.
Lap 63, 9 laps to go. Each of those laps is 2.6 miles long, and that could be an awful long way if this circuit starts to turn into a skating rink, which it may well do. Michael Schumacher then into his 64th lap now. Look at the gap between him and Barrichello. Here comes the Mika Häkkinen, the second of these two cars. He's up behind Shinji Nakano, 14th place, lapping the Japanese driver.
I think that was Tuero again, but you see the vapour trails coming off the rear wing. You can see the moisture in the air. We've had it all through the race. I'll point them out again. The vortices that come off the rear wing end fence. You can just see them briefly there on Häkkinen's car as he heads out into the country on the 64th lap.
Yes, you see top class there, Mika Häkkinen. They're all good drivers. You don't get to Formula One without being good, but Tuero is only 19 years old. He's got minimal experience. This is only his third Grand Prix. As we watch Damon Hill with those distinctive side pod winglets on the Jordan, struggling home, still out of the points. In the eternal optimist, he's been saying, I'm not giving up, I haven't lost any of my talent. I'm sure he's right.
Is this Wirtz up alongside Irvine? Where's Irvine? That's Wirtz. He's passed him, yes. Wirtz has made the pass. The director's missed it here in Argentina. Hopefully we're going to get a replay shortly. Wirtz up into third position. What a great drive. Irvine having a go back at him. You won't get through there, Eddie.
But this is the battle for third position on lap 65. It looks as though there are not going to be two Ferrari drivers on the podium, because look at the gap now that Alexander Wirtz is opening up between himself and Eddie Irvine as we ride around turn 6 in the Benetton. There is Eddie Irvine. Behind him is Alesi. Behind him is Fisichella. And Eddie Irvine's brilliant race in Argentina last year, which was being followed by another one this year, is not going to give him the dividend that it did in 1997. As we watch David Coulthard. Now, Coulthard is in 7th position, up behind Fisichella. That's the Benetton in front of him, and there is Jean Alesi. So it's Alesi Sauber, Fisichella Benetton, David Coulthard in the McLaren, and Coulthard is trying desperately to get past.
Here we go. Here's Eddie Irvine, basically just running wide. Locked his wheels and ran wide in turn 1. And Wirtz, well, it looked very easy for him in the end, didn't it? Eddie outbraked himself.
Well, meantime, David Coulthard, desperate for that just one World Championship point, sees Fisichella in front of him as he turns round the Orquilla, turn 16 to complete another lap. And Michael Schumacher is on lap 65 out of 72.
Yes, David can see 2 very much needed points. 2 cars ahead of him in that Sauber, and he needs them because Häkkinen looks like scoring at least 6 points today. And, well, it's pretty tough for him in the World Championship. It's been a terrible race for David. If it could go wrong, it has gone wrong. And he really needs at least to pass the Benetton for a point, and preferably Alesi too. But I wouldn't think that's really possible. There's only 7 laps to do it. If he can have one of them, he'll do well.
Well, if he doesn't get past either of them, Häkkinen will have increased his lead over David Coulthard to 14 points. At the present moment, he's 8 World Championship points ahead of him. And
there's Irvine locking his wheel, and Wirtz saying, thank you very much. That was too easy after all that.
Yes, he's pushed and bullied and thrust, but eventually he's got past. And he's now in 3rd position on 4 points for his 2nd podium in his short career. And Eddie Irvine comes towards us in the Ferrari with Michael Schumacher now on his 66th lap. And he's lapping a steady 1 second a lap faster than Mika Häkkinen, who appears to me very definitely now to have settled for 2nd place as we take a break.
Welcome back. Seconds ago, big drama here. Michael Schumacher off the track.
Yeah, it really is an indication of how damp the circuit's beginning. When Michael Schumacher loses control, you can bet your life the conditions are fairly slippery indeed. But he had the presence of mind to keep the car straight, get back onto that service road, and now he's rejoined about 4 seconds in front of Häkkinen.
Wow, got quite a race. Alexander Wurz also with a spin. He was in third place where he went past the other Ferrari of Irvine. Unfortunately, he spun, so that's put him back. So it's all happened in the last 30 seconds since the track got damp. Schumacher still in front, but hanging on. Häkkinen chasing. Irvine now back into third place. Wurz back in after that spin. Alesi Fisichella. Oh, what a good race. Back to Murray.
He stayed calm, he stayed cool. He kept the traction going, he found his way back onto the track, and now he's back up to racing speed.
Yes, I mean, if you notice, he just drove straight through the gravel, knowing that there'll be some kind of road behind there where they have to use. Wurz spun off because he was heading into turn one. The Tyrrell in front of him locked its wheels. Wurz locked his wheels in sympathy and ended up turning into the corner backwards. But again, I think the track was pretty slippery down there. This is David Coulthard, and that's another Benetton off. That's Fisichella off, under braking, lost the back end, puts Coulthard into the points. Schumacher on his 69th lap, 4 laps remaining, as you see.
And the moral of the story is don't do anything in sympathy.
That's Coulthard off now. Now his 6th place is down the drain, unless he can get back on the circuit ahead of Fisichella. Look how slippery it is, he can barely touch the throttle.
And they haven't got time to come in and change tyres for intermediates, which would be the ideal solution. They've got to battle on. There are 3 laps to go at the end of this one, and Michael Schumacher has just got to sweat it out, quite literally, as he comes up behind Giancarlo Fisichella, who's just gone off, and he's about to be lapped.
Well, Häkkinen taking it very, very steadily. I suspect he's been off somewhere too. His last lap time was a 45.0, some 12 seconds slower than Michael Schumacher. So out of camera shot, Häkkinen's been across the grass somewhere. I wonder if Coulthard will come through in 6th. I think we're about to... there's Coulthard still on the racetrack. No, it's Häkkinen, I'm sorry. Häkkinen, 2nd place, 13 seconds. This is Coulthard, just on his way into the centre S, and lost it before he got anywhere near the corner.
Well, lap 70 out of 72. 2 laps to go after this one. Michael Schumacher is a comfortable 13 seconds ahead of the man you're watching now. Double race winner in 1998, Mika Häkkinen, World Championship leader. The man who won the last race of 1997 to make it now 3 in a row. He's not going to win this one unless something happens to Michael Schumacher, who is 13 seconds up the road ahead of him on lap 70. As you look at Heinz-Harald Frentzen, he's well out of the points, 9th. His teammate Villeneuve has long since retired. Irvine is 3rd, having regained that place when Wurz spun. Wurz is 4th, Alesi is 5th, and David Coulthard is in the points at 6th position as Rosset lets Schumacher through.
Okay, the rain must have stopped. The times are coming back again. They're now into the low 1:30s. Wurz, the quickest man on the track, but 9 seconds behind Irvine. No real way of catching him as Michael Schumacher treads very, very carefully.
Lap 71, just this and the next, for what could be, and frankly should be, a famous, very well-deserved, brilliant victory for Michael Schumacher, who's coming in to win, hopefully from his point of view, his 28th Grand Prix in his superb career. Further to add to those World Championship points of his, and with Eddie Irvine to lift the Ferrari team after a magnificent recovery between Brazil and here into 2nd place in the Constructors' World Championship, and really bring Formula One to life again before the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola in 2 weeks' time. And that is Ferrari home country. Schumacher has long been a hero in Italy. His status is going to be dramatically enhanced after this race if he just stays where he is.
Absolutely, and Fisichella just setting the fastest section time of the entire getting ready to give him the biggest cheer. This is why the man is an international, worldwide superstar, and why he's so sought after, and why he's paid such staggering amounts of money. When the chips are down, when the conditions are changeable, he somehow keeps his head cooler than the others.
Coming up to turn 11 out of 17. Now into another left-hander at Ombu, down the straight, approaching the Senna S, the chicane, named after the great multiple Brazilian world champion. Michael Schumacher exits the Senna chicane. Into turn 15, the right-hander builds up to 150 miles an hour. He is almost home. He can almost see the checkered flag. He rounds the left hand of the last corner and wins the Argentine Grand Prix for Ferrari. 10 World Championship points. The flags fly, the crowd cheers. No more. Yes, Michael, you've done it. And is he pleased? One of the great things about Michael Schumacher is he is never the least bit reluctant to show how much he enjoys his motor racing. And I bet you that when he gets up on the podium, he will be absolutely euphoric.
Yeah, he'll be enjoying that. They say it's better to be born lucky than good. Well, Michael Schumacher is good and lucky. Remember, he had a big coming together with Coulthard early in the race, then the trip across the gravel onto the emergency road, and he still comes through to win. What a great drive.
What a great race. Mika Häkkinen finishes second, 23 seconds down to the nearest 10th. We're just waiting for Eddie Irvine to come home now. Third for Ferrari to make it 14 World Championship points for the historic Maranello team. Eddie Irvine has finished. There he is, and he's not unhappy. A brilliant second in 1997, a superb third in 1998, and Eddie did that in spite of the efforts of Alexander Wurz to drive through the middle of his Ferrari several times. Wurz, however, has finished in 4th position. That's his second successive 4th place for the Benetton team. Alesi has scored 2 points for 5th position for Sauber, and David Coulthard brings the second McLaren home in the points, 1 point, but the gap between himself and Mika Häkkinen in the World Championship has increased by 9 points. And Häkkinen now leads Michael Schumacher in the championship by 12 points. Schumacher has leapt ahead of David Coulthard by 1 point. Coulthard third, Eddie Irvine is in 4th place. Heinz-Harald Frentzen and the amazing Alexander Wurz are equal 5th. And Martin, if we see more like that the rest of this year, we're going to be very happy men.
Well, they look like they're going to be half an hour collecting up all the